Hello everyone and welcome back. For those of you who do not follow me on Twitter, you might be wondering why there was no video last week. I was actually on a getaway trip to London with Spawn, and in this video I'm going to go over my top 10 list and also some things that will make your stay in London a whole lot easier. Now let's start with the things that will make your life a lot easier. The first thing you should do when you get to London is get an Oyster card. That is, of course, if you aren't planning on driving or riding a bicycle. The Oyster card is the only way to pay for transit services. Unless you want to take a cab everywhere, that will cost you quite a bit, especially if you're planning to stay more than a day or two. Secondly, have a good pair of walking shoes with you. Even if you take cabs or public transport, there will be a lot of walking to get to the things that you want to see and do. Thirdly, always carry around a decent amount of water at all times. This is just not for hydration purposes during hot days, but there have also been a lot of acid attacks in London recently. When I and Spawn were in London, there happened to have been several acid attacks in mere 45 minutes. I read about this in a newspaper the day after, and then I got a bit anxious. Ignorance is bliss, I guess. Fourth, if you're planning to use public transportations to get around London, then I suggest you download this app, the London Transport Planner. It is available for Android at least, and I'm almost confident that it's available for iOS as well. With this app, you type in where you are, where you want to go, and when you want to start or arrive at the destination. You can then choose if you want just buses, the fastest travel time, or the least walking. The app then shows you suggestions for you to pick. This app was a lifesaver for me and also made it possible to move around in London without carrying several maps. I do, however, suggest that you use Google Maps or a similar service as a complement to this app. Lastly, make sure that your phone has roaming capabilities or buy a British cell phone card. Sure, there are some spots that have free Wi-Fi, but it might not be available when you need it most. Right, so here's my top 10 list for my London visit. Number 10. The historical buildings. London is a city that is bursting with history. Everything from monuments to churches and military buildings. So if you like history, but you have a specific type of historical building that you're into, London will most likely have something for you. Like, for instance, the Tower, the Big Ben, the war statues of brave men that fought and died to defend Great Britain. Number 9. The Orc's Nest. If you're like me and you have a childish affection for board games and card games, then the Orc's Nest is definitely a place for you. It might not be a massive shop, but it does have a wide variety of games and rulebooks. Number 8. The Science Museum. Now, the Science Museum had a free entry, and there were plenty of things to roam around looking at and learn awesome new things from. Everything from old medicine practices to spaceflight. There was also a cinema and other special interactive exhibits to look at. These costs money though. So if you're a cheapskate, you can still get a lot out of the trip to the Science Museum. Number 7. Namco Funscape. An arcade with arcade games, bowling, and ticket collecting. We spent almost an entire day in there. Sure, it did cost a lot of money, and the prices were a bit meh, but it was a lot of fun. Almost made you feel like Deadpool there for a second, grabbing all those tickets. So if you love arcade games, then this is a must for you. Number 6. The Forbidden Planet. Nerdvana! Figurines, pop figures, movie memorabilia, mugs, bags, and a ton of other stuff from all your favorite games, movies, and series. Also, downstairs is full of books, comics, manga, and anime. If you're feeling like getting your nerd on and salivate over the expensive replicas and figurines, or buy something cool for your collection, the Forbidden Planet is a must. Number 5. The food. Granted that I only tried the beer-baked fish and chips that would be considered genuine British food. But damn was it good. Not a huge fish fan in general, but this was really good. I only tried it once and in one restaurant, so it might taste like shit everywhere else. Who knows? But I do think the English cuisine has an undeserved bad rep. I mean, you don't have to eat anything that looks disgusting. And I'm sure all countries have dishes that are vile and disgusting. Just look at Surströmming. Probably one of the most vile things ever invented. And should be classified as a chemical weapon of mass destruction. And should have sanctions by the UN placed on it. But some people love that shit. Not me though. I've only tried it once in my life. And that was one time too many. Those of you who don't know what Surströmming is, let me tell you. It's herring, fermented in a tin can up to a point where the tin can is almost exploding. Then you take that herring and put it on some Swedish rye bread with mashed potatoes. So do try some English dishes when you're there. Just avoid the things that people tell you is an abomination. I mean, you can always eat Subway or Burger King when you get home as well. Number 4, the London Eye. If you have never been on the London Eye and feel like forking up the cash for it, I suggest you don't buy your ticket online. They require a printed out ticket, and this is not sent to your home. So it will require you to print out a ticket at a printing shop. You can just as easily buy a ticket while you're there. I also suggest that you get the fast track ticket, even if it costs a bit more. Skipping the huge line is well worth it, and the view from the top is something else. You can almost see all of London from up there, or at least it seems like. But if you've already been on the London Eye, it might not be worth the cost again, unless you enjoyed yourself very much during your last trip. Number 3, IMAX. As neither me nor Spawn had ever seen a movie on IMAX before, this was something special. The huge screen and the sound took the experience to a whole new level. And it probably helped that the movie we watched was Spider-Man Homecoming. Both me and Spawn enjoyed that movie quite a bit. They skipped over the whole backstory of how he got his powers and so forth. I mean, this franchise has been redone over and over and over again. And if at this point you don't know how Spider-Man got his powers, I'm guessing you're not a fan of superheroes. If you have a significant other or friend that does not know how Spider-Man got his powers, then you might want to explain that before seeing the movie. Or watch some of the older ones, so that the person knows the backstory. But back to the IMAX thing. The glasses that you got were extremely comfortable and gave a very popping 3D experience. And you got to keep the glasses. Unfortunately, they do not work on your 3D TV at home. So I'm hoping that they will work at the local cinema at home. I'm going to try that the next time we're at the movies. Number 2, the public transportation services. As I said at the start, get an Oyster card, download the app. This will make your life a whole lot easier. Underground buses and trains leave fairly regularly during the daytime, and you rarely have to wait more than 10-15 minutes for the next one, should you miss it. This is very good, because it makes you not spend so much time waiting on transport, and you can spend a lot more time at the things you want to see and visit. Now, me and Spawn stayed in the western part of London, that is, after we switched living arrangements, since the first one in the eastern part was a damn dump. Now, from the western part, it took us about 40 minutes to get to the central part of London, and that included some waiting time at the different stops. So this was very good. I do, however, suggest that you still decide on what to do the day before, and try to do things that are situated close to one another on the same day. This will reduce the time of transport by quite a bit. Now, if you're going to the central part, however, there are plenty of things to do there, and you can probably spend several days exploring the central parts. Some specific things are situated on the outskirts of London, so having an itinerary is always a good idea. And if you want to see as much as possible without feeling stressed, I do suggest spending a week rather than just a weekend. But if you're a frequent flyer and intend to go to London often, then you can spend a weekend at a time, I guess. And now for my number one spot, the O2 Arena had a special exhibit at the moment. It's called Star Wars Identities. It lasts until September this year, so if you want to see it, then you best hurry, since it will not be here for much longer. So what is this exhibit then? It's a semi-interactive exhibit. When you buy your ticket, you get to borrow a one-sided headphone that will start when you get close to one of the monitors. This means that you will have to be fairly close to each monitor, and it will only pick audio from one monitor. You will also get a wristband. This wristband will allow you to create your own Star Wars character depending on the different choices you make at the 10 interactive stations. After you have completed the 10 stations, you get a picture on a large screen of what your character looks like. And they will also send you an email containing the various workings of your character, explaining their role in the Star Wars universe. I do, however, wish there were a bit more stations so you could really get into the character more than this did. But it's still a cool thing. I became a Sith senator working in the shadows of the Senate to get my way. Bond became an Ewok bounty hunter, of all things. Now back to the exhibit itself. It had various movie replicas, models, and pre-production drawings and thoughts on characters and plots. There were a few things that I actually did not know before going over these monitors, like the fact that Lucas had one pre-draft where he had Yoda looking like a garden gnome with a totally different name. Can you imagine Yoda not being the little green toad-like creature, but instead a garden gnome? Seems like a silly thing for us now, since Yoda is one of the most iconic characters in the Star Wars universe. There were also mannequins wearing different clothes of the characters in the Star Wars universe, and a full-sized Darth Vader that I wish I had at home. But all in all, my London trip was a very good experience. I was planning on going to Camden Market as well, but unfortunately it was almost completely burned down the week before we got there. But you can't have it all, I guess. We got a full experience nonetheless, and perhaps we will go back to London at some point, but it seems more likely that we will go somewhere else in the world to expand our views. Feel free to leave suggestions on where to go. So thank you all for listening to my London story. I hope you got something out of it and might consider visiting London, even with all the recent bad events. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.
May the facts be with you.